Integration of princely state in simple meaning can mean as it is called as a combination of princely states. British India consisted of British India provinces and princely states. The British Indian provinces were directly under the control of British government and thus transferred to India on 15th August 1947, whereas the princely state accepted British supremacy but enjoy certain amount of freedom in their internal affairs. So this was called paramountcy of British. Or I'll tell you in simple meaning, in India, the princely state accepted the supremacy of British Raj. But what happened? But this East India Company granted a certain amount of freedom in conducting their internal matter. So this is called as paramountcy or suzerainty. The Indian Independence Act of 1947. So you all know that what are they in this act and the provisions. So this Indian Independence Act of 1947 declare its lapse or failure of paramountcy with effect from 15th August 1947. So in this act, they were planning to have a temporary government or temporary independence to Indians. With this, the princely states regained their status, became legally independent and free to join India or Pakistan. So who get the freedom? This princely state gets the freedom, or they you can tell as they regain the status, became legally independent either to join India or Pakistan. Soon the small states realized that it was not possible to maintain independent existence and were willing to accede to India or Pakistan. At that time, the small state they realized that it is impossible to stay as an independent state or independent princely state. So it is obligatory to join either in India or Pakistan. Sardar Patel, or you can tell as Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, took charge of Indian States Department and VP Menon became secretary on 5th July 1947. So they both dealt with the matter arising between central government and Indian states. All states except few acceded or accepted to Indian Union in accordance with an instrument of accession. Actually, this instrument of accession was a legal document that first introduced by Government of India Act 1935 and used in 1947 to enable each of the rulers of princely states under British paramountcy to join one of the new dominions of India or Pakistan created by the partition of British India. So here tells that all states except a few acceded or accepted to Indian Union in accordance with an instrument of accession by which they acceded only three subjects, that is defense, foreign affairs and communication. So the rulers of these states were promised honorable position and were assured of their rights and privileges. By that time they were the king. So what will happen to the king? They may lose their prestige in order to joining this Indian Union. They want their princely states as their own. So this the ruler of princely states were promised honorable position and were assured of their rights and privileges. Of the states situated within the boundary of Dominion of India, about 565 states excepting Junagadh, that's in Gujarat, Hyderabad and Kashmir, and few had acceded before the independence itself. Next, the process of integration was threefold and known as Patel scheme, and this is very much important question. So let's see the threefold. Number one, merger of small states with adjoining provinces. Read the title carefully. It tells that the merger of small states with adjoining provinces. Let's go in detail. About 216 states were merged with provinces adjoining them. Example, merger of 24 states of Orissa, 14 states of Central Province, Pudukkottai in Madras, etc. These merged states were included in Part B of the Constitution. Number 2, grouping of small states. Many small states grouped themselves to form a big state with the ruler of the most prominent one becoming the Raj Pramukh. So here tells that many small states they group themselves to form a big state with the ruler of the most important, who is the important one, and one important one became the Raj Pramukh. Example: Union of Saurashtra, Patiala and East Punjab State Union, that is PEPSU, etc. So these unions were called Part B states. Number 3, integration into Chief Commissioner's provinces. So let's see. About 61 states which were small and backward were converted into centrally administered areas as Chief Commissioner provinces and were called Part C states. So the examples are Himachal Pradesh, Ajmer, Coorg, Cooch Behar, etc. The next part you are going to learn about the accession of Junagadh, Hyderabad and Kashmir. Just before we have discussed that about 565 states were accepted or they were acceded to Indian Union. But except this Junagadh, Hyderabad and Kashmir and few had acceded before independence itself. So they want these Junagadh, Hyderabad and Kashmir, they want their state as their own. They don't want to join either in India and Pakistan. They want to stay as their own states. So with regard to Junagadh, the Nawab of Junagadh, actually Junagadh is in Gujarat. So the Nawab of Junagadh, Muhammad Khan, declared accession to Pakistan. And this accession, so his wish was to join Pakistan. And this accession was much against the wishes of the people of the state. So the people in the state of Junagadh, they were against to the wishes of the king or the Nawab Muhammad Khan. After the declaration of accession, so his plan is to join Pakistan. So they in the sense the people rose in rebellion against the Nawab. As a result, this Nawab fled to Pakistan. A plebiscite was held in which the people voted to accede to Indian Union. So a plebiscite means the direct vote of all members of an electorate on important questions such as changing constitution, like that. So for that a plebiscite was held in which the people voted to accede to Indian Union. Later the Junagadh was merged with Saurashtra. With regard to Hyderabad, the largest of princely state, was surrounded by Indian territory. Its ruler, Asad Usman Ali Khan, the Nizam, wanted an independent status. So this Nizam don't want to join either in India and Pakistan. He wants the state Hyderabad as its own. For that, this Nizam made a standstill agreement. Actually, standstill agreement was an agreement signed between the newly independent dominance of India and Pakistan and the princely states of British Indian Empire prior to their integration into the new dominion, either India or Pakistan. The form of the agreement was bilateral, two-sided between the dominion and the princely state. For that, this Nizam made a standstill agreement with India in November 1947 to maintain the status quo. That means to maintain the status which existed before 1947. So he won the status before 1947 where the Hyderabad as a state as its own. But Indian government felt that an independent Hyderabad would pose security threat. In the meantime, there was a movement against the oppressive rule of Nizam. It's not Nawab, it's Nizam. So in the meantime, there was a movement against the oppressive rule of Nizam. The peasantry and women joined it in large numbers. The Congress and Communists were in the forefront of the movement. Through his paramilitary forces, these military forces named as Razakas, so this Nizam ostracized the people. So these Razakas, these paramilitary forces, they raped, maimed, looted, murdered and targeted the non-Muslims. To end this anarchy or this dictator rule, the Indian army entered into Hyderabad in September 1948, and this police action is known as Operation Polo. The Nizam surrendered and it was followed by complete accession of Hyderabad into Indian Union. Next, Kashmir. Jammu and Kashmir, J&K, was princely state. Its ruler Hari Singh was a Hindu and the population was largely Muslim, that is 77%. They did not want to merge with India or Pakistan. So this Hari Singh was a king. He don't want to join his states either in India or Pakistan, but have an independent status for the states. There was a popular movement led by Sheikh Abdullah of the National Congress for the removal of the King Hari Singh. They were against joining Pakistan also. They thought of themselves as Kashmiris. Jammu and Kashmir, they thought of themselves as Kashmiris in view of geographical continuity, means continuous existence. Where you can see that this Jammu Kashmir is sometimes belongs to India and Pakistan. So, in the view of geographical continuity and greater numerical strength of Muslims in state, Pakistan was anxious to bring it under its rule. In October 1947, Kashmir was invaded by tribal infiltrator. This all I taught you in India-Pakistan relation. So these Pakistan tribal, they disguised themselves as Indians in Jammu Kashmir. So in October 1947, Kashmir was invaded by tribal infiltrator of Pakistan. This forced the Maharaja to seek Indian military help. India reacted positively after Instrument of Accession was signed on 26 October 1947. So this Instrument Accession, this Maharaja Hari Singh seek help from Indian military, and this Maharaja signed the Instrument of Accession to join India. So, in 26 October 1947. So this was accepted by Sheikh Abdullah. Actually, Sheikh Abdullah led a popular movement. So he was from a national conference to remove King Hari Singh. So this Maharaja seek help from Indian military for the tribal infiltration of Pakistan, and also accepted and signed the Instrument of Accession to join India on 26 October 1947. Through this, Kashmir became the bone of contention, or this Kashmir became the long-standing argument. To resolve the crisis, the Constituent Assembly of India made a special provision through Article 370 to provide a separate constitution to the state along with other provisions. In April 1950, the Security Council, so it is the organ of UN. So in April 1950, the Security Council appointed Sir Owen Dixon as United Nations representative to help the government resolve the dispute of Jammu and Kashmir. Since then, it is before the Security Council, which is yet to be solved. In 1951, the Constituent Assembly met in state to frame a constitution. In February 1954, the accession of the state to India was ratified or signed by the Constituent Assembly. In November 1956, it adopted a constitution legalizing the status of Jammu and Kashmir as a unit of Indian Union. It is significant to note that the Constitution of Jammu and Kashmir declared the accession of the state to India as final. As per the accord reached between the Prime Minister of India and Sheikh Abdullah, the post of Prime Minister of Jammu and Kashmir was redesignated as Chief Minister of Jammu and Kashmir on 25th February 1975. By 1990, Kashmir came under the grip of militants who were demanding for a separate Kashmir nation. It remained the cause of conflict between India and Pakistan. Several intrusions were made by Pakistan, including Kargil War of 1999. In the meanwhile, it was under presidential rule and under the control of armed forces for a long time. Only after 2002, free elections are being conducted. There is an opinion that Article 370 should be revoked or cancelled, as it does not allow full integration of the state with India. The Kashmir issue is not just a dispute between India and Pakistan, but also has dimensions of total integration, political autonomy, preserving Kashmir culture or Kashmiriyat also. The process of integration culminated in the Constitution. 7th Amendment, which included all the states in Part A and B in one list. Thus, the Indian state lost their identity and became a part of one uniform political organization under the Constitution of India. Role of Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel. The biggest individual factor in the above spectacular event was the personality of Sardar Patel. So you all know that this Patel scheme belongs to Sardar Patel. The success of integration or combination of the state is attributed to his astute statesmanship, intense patriotism, and great administrative skill. You see, he handled the kings of princely states with patience, tact, and sympathy. He was a man of iron will. The integration of states is his great contribution to Indian independence.